Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Preemie Power Week. I'm Fabiana Bacchini, Executive Director of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation, CPBF, and your host for this event. The Preemie Power Week is the second of two international live series that CPBF is hosting 2020 in recognition of World Prematurity Day. And today is World Prematurity Day, and we are celebrating this day around the world. These education sessions are in collaboration with the International Family Integrated Care Committee, the Canadian Association of Neonatal Nurses, EFCNI, and GLANS, the Global Alliance for the Newborn Care. For those not familiar with CPBF, we are a charitable organization, and our mission is to support and educate Canadian families of premature babies every step of the way. We believe that through consistent information, access to helpful resources, and peer support inside and outside an ICU, we can empower families, ensuring they are ready to care for their baby. Consistent information is especially important today when we are facing a global pandemic. With educational sessions like this, we intend to bring you the guidance of healthcare professionals and the knowledge gathered by researchers around the world. These are valuable tools to help our community raise awareness and advocate for the well-being of families and their babies. I would like to thank AbbVie for the unrestricted educational grant and Pampers for supporting the Preemie Power Week. Today, I'm going to share a little bit of my personal story and how I found peer support, education, and collaboration, the key elements for me to survive the NICU. And in honor of this special day, I will share with you what the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation is doing to ensure that we are creating a brighter future for premature babies and their families. I will share some of my slides with you. You give me one moment to put on a full slide mode. Here we go. So my story started 8 years ago when I was pregnant with twins, and halfway through my pregnancy, we found out that one of our twins had a heart condition and he had almost zero chance to make to birth. At 25 weeks, I went into preterm labor, and 26 weeks, I delivered my twins at Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. Mike was stillborn, and Gabriel was rushed into the NICU, which became our home for 146 days. This is the first time I saw Gabriel wrapped in a plastic bag. It was a 2-pound baby, and all these wires and tubes around his face. I was very, very scared. I was very fortunate to be introduced to the Family Integrated Care research study that Sinai was doing at the time. And we talked a lot about FI Care yesterday with Dr. Carol Bryan and Dr. Linda Frank about what is happening with FI Care and how to implement FI Care in units around the world. I was lucky to be part of this study where I was welcome to be part of the team. I was able to do more skin-to-skin care with my son. I was actually part of his care. I could change his diaper, take his temperature, and as he got more stable, I could give him a bath. I was always present at rounds, and in the beginning it was very intimidating to be surrounded by a multidisciplinary team that I did not understand what they were saying, but I was there as an observer. As the weeks passed by and I became more empowered and more knowledgeable about his conditions, I was actually able to present at rounds. I had my own charts, and every day, Monday to Friday, I had education sessions talking about different aspects of prematurity, what to expect with preemie babies, and how can we support their development at home, but also how could we take care of our own mental health as parents in the NICU. We had this amazing peer support system at Sinai with veteran parents coming into the units to support us by the bedside. So that experience was very transformative for me as I started seeing the NICU on a very different perspective. It totally changed my perception of the NICU. It took me from a place of fear of the unknown, fear of what was coming after for Gabriel when he got discharged home, and fear of losing him. Being part of his care, I learned how to stay present in the NICU, and I felt this unconditional love for my child, and I learned how to celebrate him every single day without thinking about what could happen the next day. I was really able to be a parent in the NICU at that time. As I mentioned before, we were able to do a lot more kangaroo care, which was so important for my husband and I to create that bond with the baby. You can see my husband holding Gabriel just a few hours after he was born, when he was only 2 pounds. And I'm holding Gabriel on the picture on the left, on the right-hand side, on ventilator, which was extremely challenging. And I acknowledge how healthcare professionals sometimes do not have time to have 3 people around you supporting or holding kangaroo care on ventilator. But those are the moments that are unforgettable for me, and to create a bond with my son. And obviously now we all know the benefits of kangaroo care. But the time for me was just I need to feel my son. Today, I know through research the importance of kangaroo care for all babies born preterm. And support was all around me, which really helped in my journey. I had incredible lactation support during my pumping sessions, how hard it is for moms to pump. And I was one of the fortunate ones that I had a lot of milk. This is my freezer at home. But it wasn't without the support. I couldn't have done alone. So the support from day one, when I just delivered Gabriel from a C-section, and a nurse came and said, you got to start pumping now. And I know how hard that is. And I acknowledge all the moms and the parents who are there trying their best to provide breast milk for their babies. And this is my primary nurse holding Gabriel. She really, both of my nurses, our primary nurses and all the nurses at the team at Sinai really showed me how to be a mom in that scary environment and translated the ICU to me in mom's terms rather than medical terms. So I could actually start to get involved and engage on Gabriel's care. So finally, 5 months later, we were going to be discharged, and this was our discharge day. Was a bittersweet day for me, for sure. And I was preparing to bring Gabriel home, and just a couple of weeks before, we were told that we were going to bring Gabriel home on oxygen. And I cried because I did not want to bring the hospital home. I want to be a family at home the way I had dreamed before. And I remember saying to a doctor, and I saying, I want my life to go back to normal. And she, with a lot of kindness and compassion, said to me, this will be your new normal, and you're ready for this. I had spent over 1,100 hours by his bedside. So she reassured me that I was prepared to care for Gabriel at home. I had done over 400 hours of skin to skin, and I was in over 100 medical rounds. And I did not understand the importance of being around during that time, but I learned the value of being around, engaged around after discharge. When I took my baby home and I started seeing this team of specialists that did not know anything about Gabriel. So I had to talk about Gabriel, his condition, what he has gone through in the ICU. And that was extremely empowering for me. I really found my voice. I really felt that I could advocate for my son. And I will share this story with you because I think this story really summarizes what education and empowerment for parents mean when we are in the community. 2 months after Gabriel got discharged from Mount Sinai, we were home, and I noticed that Gabriel was not doing well. He wasn't breathing properly. I took him to our pediatrician who works in a community hospital, and he said to me, we have to admit Gabriel. He has pneumonia. So Gabriel was admitted there for a couple of weeks, and he wasn't getting better. On December 24th in the morning, I was breastfeeding Gabriel, and Gabriel started turning blue. And I remember, I screamed, nobody came. And I remember Marianne Bratt, who was the parenting resource center at Sinai at the time, said on her CPR class, she said to us, when you don't know what to do, you start CPR. And that's exactly what I did. And that's what saved my son's life that day. And I'm so grateful that I was able to do that. But I also had to spend 9 hours advocating with my husband to get Gabriel transferred to Sick Kids. And that is the picture at Sick Kids, almost midnight on Christmas Eve. Gabriel was in the pediatric intensive care unit at Sick Kids. And as hard as that day was for us, I had my heart absolutely filled with gratitude. Gratitude for everybody who taught me all the lessons in the ICU, where I learned how to advocate for Gabriel, and I learned the skill to do CPR on my son so I could save his life. And I always thought, how can I ever give back to this community of people who care so much for families and babies? So I spent pretty much 1 year reflecting on this NICU journey and what it meant for us as a family, for me as a mother, and for my children. And when I look back into my NICU memories, I realized that there was more joyful memories than not. And for all the parents out there, I'm sure you know this movie Inside Out, and this is Joy looking into her memory box. And that was an ICU for me. I have more yellow memories, the joyful memories, than the other ones. And I really decided that I need to give back to this community by becoming a volunteer. So I volunteer at Mount Sinai for 6 years in the ICU. I got engaged in a lot of different committees. I was a parent advisor and a parent body, and I started getting involved in research. That experience led me to the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation, where I am today for the last 2 years. And the foundation was created by Katerina Staub, who is a mom of preemie twins from Edmonton. And after Katerina left, Kate Robson took the leadership of the foundation. And Kate Robson is also a mom of preemies, and she works in the ICU at Sunnybrook Hospital. So the foundation is being around since 2012. And is doing incredible work across the country that we share with you, and how all that comes together. So our mission at the foundation is to support and educate Canadian families every step of the way, before, during, and after the NICU stays, because we know the journey starts before we land in the NICU for a lot of people who have high-risk pregnancies. And we want mothers who have healthy pregnancies and have enough information during their pregnancy. Our vision is to have a brighter future for all premature babies and those who care for them. So we do that through education, and we develop a lot of educational materials for families in collaboration with healthcare professionals in Canada. So everything that we produce is evidence-based. This is very important for us to disseminate information that is relevant, is reliable, and credible for our families. So we have webinars, we have a podcast series with you in the NICU, which is a podcast series for parents who are pumping, and is your companion during 15 minutes of a pumping session, because we know how hard it is to pump. Every Friday since the beginning of the pandemic, I've been hosting Facebook Live, which became our virtual education session, because we know the hospitals right now cannot have in-person groups for education or peer support. So we are here to bring the experts and make them available and accessible for families to ask questions, but also for healthcare professionals who wants to learn about the latest research, the latest standard of care, and what is happening in Canada, and they can support the NICU and the NICU families. Our website has a lot of information, a lot of education for families on common inter-illnesses, RSV, early pumping, breastfeeding. And today we're actually launching our very new video series for families who are first come to the ICU with a brand new baby. We know how those first days and first couple of weeks are terrifying for families. And we created these videos that are very, very simple, very short, for families to understand what is happening and how to become familiar with alarms and beeps and the terminology that they use in the ICU. The videos go hand in hand with our Welcome to the ICU booklet that we have created in 10 languages. So you can check the videos on our website, and please do share with the families in your hospitals. So support for us is extremely important, because we know how much families feel alone in the ICU, and especially this time during the pandemic, where the support system seems to have disappeared. No, we don't have any visitors coming to the ICU, so parents are alone in the ICU with their babies. They cannot have extended families or grandparents or the other siblings. So we are here to support families in the best way that we can. We have a very large group on Facebook that is monitored by veteran parents who have been trained to do this work. Families share resources, share their milestones, their celebrations, and it's a great place to go so families know that they are not alone. And every Wednesday, Kate Robson is hosting a real-time support group also here on Facebook. It is a private group, a small group for families who are in the ICU or any family who have been discharged that could benefit from that group. With COVID this year, we understand the extra stress families are going through. We created the COVID care program. So we are offering families 2 sessions of therapy with psychologists or therapists from across Canada to give 2 online sessions for families for free. Any family can apply if they are in an ICU or up to a year post-discharge. And also, we decided to bring a little bit of joy to families this year in the ICU. We know the news always seems to be bad news these days. Our milestone cards is to help families to celebrate the steps that the babies take in the ICU and also acknowledge the parents' engagement in the ICU. We are piloting the milestone cards in 10 units at the moment. We are expanding the program next year, but all the cards are available on our website, and anyone can just print. They are in PDF format. And earlier this year, we partnered with Pampers to provide $200,000 in technology grants. 8 hospitals across Canada were awarded with the technology grant to implement technology in the units to keep families and babies together. We know sometimes parents are sick, they cannot come into the unit, or one parent is working, cannot be there for rounds, or extended families. So we are hoping this technology will really enhance the connectivity between families and babies. And for 2021, we are creating a graduation care package that we're going to be sending to hospitals across the country. That's also in collaboration with Pampers, and we are sending this beautiful graduation certificates for families to celebrate the journey that they've been through. Also, for us, it's very important to partner with research. We truly believe in collaboration, and we bring the parents' voice to the table. This is very important for us to work with researchers to help them understand our journey from our perspective as parents. And I'm so grateful that in Canada, we are moving forward with research really quickly, engaging families in many aspects of research. I think that is how the future will be for many other countries to include parents in research, to see what is very meaningful for us and what outcomes are important for us. In advocacy, this is how Katerina started the foundation to be the voice of premature babies in the community. And this is what we keep doing. This year, we launched the position statement together with the family integrated care to keep parents and babies together in the ICU during the pandemic and beyond. The position statement, as Dr. Carol Bryan mentioned yesterday, is available on the website, and you can really use to advocate to keep parents and babies together in a very safe way for the families and the staff at the hospitals as well. And earlier this year, we also joined forces with a global campaign called Zero Separation that we are going to talk about it with Silke Mader right after I finish my talk today. We're going to talk about what's happening around the world, in the ICUs around the world, and how this campaign is very important for families and to keep them together, because we know the long-term consequence of not having babies and parents together in the ICU. And tonight is we are joining the Illumination campaign, which is also a global movement around the world to have monuments lit up in purple. In Canada, we have 28 monuments confirmed to be lit tonight, and the whole list is also on our website. We have collaborations across the country that are very important for us to continue to always bring the parents' voice to the table. And we also collaborate with an international organizations with FCNI and GLANS for campaigns and different initiatives. So, World Prematurity Day. Why do we need to talk about prematurity, and why this day is so important for us? 1 million babies are still, we lose 1 million babies a year due to prematurity. This is a very high number worldwide. And in Canada, we have 30,000 babies born prematurely every year, 1 in 12 babies. And we all know through research that any baby born preterm can have long-term consequences. So we have to keep talking about prematurity raise awareness, work in collaboration with all stakeholders to change the face of prematurity in the future for our babies. We have to work with the spirits of care. There's so much all around us. Sometimes I see how the spirits of care in other countries, but right here in Canada, we also have it, and we're going to talk about that on Friday. So keep an eye on our agenda for Friday, because this is a problem in Canada as well. So you have to keep raising awareness on prematurity. This day was created 12 years ago by EFCNI and other parent organizations because they saw the importance of having a voice, a common voice to advocate for our babies and families. And this year, we came together to celebrate our premature babies, the families, and everyone who cared for them. We truly believe in the Preemie power. We know that ICU is a tough experience. It changed us all. No matter if you spend 2 days in the ICU or if you spend 6 months in the ICU. Parents who experience an ICU are never the same. But it doesn't mean that has to be all negative. This experience teaches so much. And sometimes when you try to look and reflect on that journey, we find this power that we did not know existed. We found our babies to be resilient. We found our voices as advocates. We understand how strong and brave we are to see our baby going through procedures, fighting for life, and we are there with them. So I want to acknowledge how hard it is in ICU. I've been there, I experienced there, but also what comes out of the ICU. I always see this beautiful community of parents coming together, this invisible bond that we have, that we share, and this work that healthcare professionals do and really care for families. I am so grateful that we have an incredible community in Canada and many other countries who are coming together to really change prematurity and create a better and a brighter future for all our babies and families. So this week we are hosting Preemie Power Week because it's very, very important for CPBF to continue to educate families and healthcare professionals. This is the way we feel we can empower people. This is the way we feel that we can create more parent advocates and how parents can learn more about their baby's situation and how they can advocate for their babies. This week, we still have a huge lineup of speakers from all over the world, bringing topics that are very, very important to this community. And we share a lot on our social media, every initiative that we have and new campaigns. Please follow us on our social media channels for you to learn the latest of what you do and how you can support families also in your unit. So this is it from me right now. I don't know if you have any comments on questions that I should address. I'm going to check here. We have somebody from Brazil, Calgary, Mexico. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have Edmonton, Spain. I guess in Europe, obviously, it's already evening. Your monuments must be lit up in purple. And we are going to have also our monuments lit up in purple tonight. So I'm going to wrap it up now. We will be back in just a few minutes with Silke Mader, who is the chairwoman or EFCNI, and Glance, and we are going to talk about the Zero Separation campaign. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Thank you. welcome to the Preemie Power Week. I'm Fabiana Bacchini, Executive Director of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation, CPBF, and your host for this event. If you are joining us here right now, welcome. And if you are logging back, I'm very happy to see you again. And the Preemie Power Week is the second of two international live series that CPBF is hosting 2020 in recognition of World Prematurity Day. These educational sessions are in collaboration with the International Family Integrated Care Committee, the Canadian Association of Neonatal Nurses, EFCNI, and GLANS, the Global Alliance for the Newborn Care. For those not familiar with CPBF, we are a charitable organization, and our mission is to support and educate Canadian families of premature babies every step of the way. We believe that through consistent information, access to helpful resources, and peer support inside and outside an ICU, we can empower families, ensuring they are ready to care for their baby. Consistent information is especially important today when we are facing a global pandemic. With educational sessions like this, we intend to bring you the guidance of healthcare professionals and the knowledge gathered by researchers around the world. These are valuable tools to help our community raise awareness and advocate for the well-being of families and their babies. I'd like to thank AbbVie for the unrestricted educational grant and Pampers for supporting the Preemie Power Week. And right now, we are going to talk about World Prematurity Day that we are celebrating today, and a very important campaign, Zero Separation, created by GLANS. World Prematurity Day on November 17th is one of the most important days in the year to raise awareness of the challenges and burden of preterm birth globally. The day was initiated by EFCNI and partnering European parent organizations in 2008. This year, World Prematurity Day will be in the midst of the pandemic. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, neonatal units have adopted a separation policy limiting or prohibiting access of parents to neonatal care units. In partnership with its other parent organizations, EFCNI launched the international campaign Zero Separation. Together for better care, keep preterm and sick babies close to their parents. And to talk about this, I have Silke Mader, who is the chairwoman of the executive board and co-founder of EFCNI. In 1997, her twins were born at 25 weeks gestation, and Silke and her family did not receive enough information and support that she needed. Unfortunately, one of them died a few days after birth. During her time in hospital and afterwards, Silke was faced with the non-existence of support of any kind, the absence of public awareness, and the lack of information and education for parents during pregnancy. Her motivation is to prevent parents from having similar experience in such painful situations. As the conditions throughout Europe are distressingly similar, and preterm children urgently need a voice within Europe and worldwide, she decided to take on the role of the chair of the executive board of EFCNI. Silke has won numerous awards in Europe and worldwide, and I have here with me today Silke. Thank you so much for joining us from Munich, Germany. I know it's 6:30 in your time there, and your monuments are already lit up in purple. Thank you so much for joining us here today and to share the amazing work you've been doing around the world to change prematurity. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to give an overview on the Zero Separation campaign, just coming from another webinar from WHO to just share the patient's point of view. It's my pleasure also to share with you the presentation. I hope you can see it in the meanwhile.
Okay, let me okay, there you go. Now you can make a full slide.
So can you see it now?
Yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so World Prematurity Day, as you have mentioned, Fabiana, is this year under the umbrella of the COVID-19 pandemic. And therefore, it's important to put also this into account when we talk about World Prematurity Day. And preterm birth complications are the leading cause of death among children under 5 years of age. And when we see the map of the world where babies are born preterm, we see also that in a lot of low and middle income countries, the majority of our babies are born preterm. Nevertheless, in our country, like yours in Canada or myself in Germany, or even also in high income countries, you see a lot of colors where you see the amount of babies born preterm. And so also the majority of our babies born preterm suffer finally lifelong. Not all of them, of course, from severe disabilities, but nevertheless, the majority of these children born preterm suffer lifelong from different kind of diseases at the end of the day. What we have done founding GLANCE was the initiative, because as we founded EFCNI, so the European organization, we had at this time, of course, not the idea to really have a global initiative, and being only 3 people having an idea without having money, we had, of course, already a big challenge in front of us all over Europe. But when I was invited more and more to World Health Organization meetings, UNICEF or UN meetings, where they talked about the prematurity issue on a global level, we thought it is really time that we, from the rich countries of the world, try our best to speak up for the majority of the babies born preterm in low and middle income countries. Therefore, in 2019, and also Fabiana has joined us here, we founded GLANCE, the Global Alliance for Newborn Care. And at this event already, and at this first call to action, we had already a zero separation policy asked for. So we have asked all the 170 organizations who celebrated with us World Prematurity Day every year. And so we asked them to join us with all these demands and questions we have for the community. At this time, it was last year, World Prematurity Day, where we founded GLANCE, nobody thought on a pandemic like this we have at the moment. And when we talk about the family integration or the family-centered care approach, we have at the moment, even in the high-income countries where I am coming from, and also you from Canada, we have different aspects of how our children are treated. And the one aspect is that we really have a family integrated care system, but also look for the development of the brain of this child, but also for long-term development. And how does this look like? And you have, of course, then to provide a 24/7 welcoming policy. You have to provide a bed. You have to take care of this tiny little baby and the family. That's the ideal world, what we have asked. Yes, now we have the pandemic situation, and the majority of the NICUs are empty. Only staff members are there, parents are separated from their baby, but we know that this will have a consequence lifelong of the health of our baby. So therefore, how can we really change the situation again to a more welcoming policy? So the pandemic really came suddenly. So that means our parents, when they were in the situation, and the parent representatives, there were a lot of questions they have asked us. So we have now the situation all over the world that parents are separated in some regions of the world because they have no incubators. Parents and babies can stay, of course, together. On the other hand, they have not really hygiene measures. We have still the situation, as I mentioned before, where parents and babies can stay together. But we know from March on worldwide that the neonatal units have adopted their separation policy really tremendously. We know also that they have changed even the standard of care. So that means they have even changed their policy of how they do a cord clamping, how they resuscitate. In some countries, they really changed even that kind of policies without having any kind of evidence behind. First, we wanted to help the parent organizations and the parents that we really provide questions and answers where parents have actually in this situation. When you are pregnant and you don't know, can my partner be with me? Where can I deliver? What happens when I have the coronavirus? What happens then? Can I have midwifery support? Can I deliver in the hospital I have planned? We have also the situation that there were many, many questions around birth. Can I breastfeed, for example? Again, can my partner be with me? Where can I deliver? Is my delivery still safe? When the baby ends up in the NICU, what kind of welcoming policies or visiting hours they have. And I don't like, as many of you know, I don't like the word visiting, because we are not visitors. We are the parents of this child, and therefore we are no visitors. But when it comes to discharge and to follow up, how is this organized? Can I really have a physiotherapy after discharge? Is this possible? And just when you imagine that the majority of these parents were overwhelmed with the situation, as well as the healthcare professionals, but when you imagine you cannot provide physiotherapy or follow-up for these children, what does this mean for the health of their baby? And that was what was coming up to us as EFCNI in Glance, and we had to immediately act and provide this kind of answers for all the questions we got. Another tool we have done for Glance is we wanted to really know the patients and parents' perspective. So we have set up a scientific research project, a survey where we asked in 27 languages our parents all over the world how the situation really is in the neonatal units. Are there really welcoming policies or visiting hours or any kind of restrictions? And if yes, how much are they going? In some countries, we have heard that they even not have any kind of contact and access to their babies. We have heard that breastfeeding is not possible, milk cannot be provided, and we all know how challenging this is from a long-term perspective when we cannot provide mother's own milk to our very tiny babies. So therefore, we have developed this online multilingual survey, which will end of November. So please, if you are willing to join this survey, it is important to give us feedback, because we really want to show what has the impact, what kind of impact has this pandemic on the parents born preterm. So please support us and join us when you are a parent born, when you are a parent of a preemie baby, which is in the time frame of the pandemic in the neonatal units. And now we would come to the Glance zero separation campaign. This whole concept really has to be understood as one real project, because we cannot separate the frequently asked questions with the survey and this campaign. It really is one whole program we would like to roll out. And what we have heard from our parents, for example, is that we have a really lack of information on the one hand, but also a lack of support for parents. Therefore, we wanted to show evidence that it is important to have a zero separation policy. One of the aspects was breastfeeding and human milk donation. The World Health Organization has clearly recommended that breastfeeding is key. It should be continued. It should be continued to donate milk, that the babies born preterm really get the best care they can have. We have heard that lung diseases, or the people are scared about potential lung diseases premature babies can have, like at the moment the RSV infection. We know that this is a very severe disease and can happen or can affect our children, but we focus mainly at the moment on the coronavirus and potentially forget to immunize our children on RSV. We have a lot of babies born preterm who are now children, teenagers, and young adults. These children and these young adults have a higher risk to get a severe development of the coronavirus. So that means if they get an infection, they have a much more higher risk to get a severe development of it. The mental health aspects, you just can imagine when you not be able to see your baby, touch your baby, and even not at all, because some of the NICUs close their doors totally, what kind of consequences it has for the babies, but also for the family. And so therefore we want to take into account and want to spread the message about this aspect. We want to talk about the discharge and going home situation. As mentioned before, that is one of the key aspects we have to think about when these babies in the time of the pandemic go home. Is there any kind of risk factors for the development when you not can really have appointments with your physiotherapist, with your pediatrician, with your occupational therapist? What kind of challenges we face here? And we should not forget the fathers and other family members, partners who are not able potentially to see their child or see their grandchild. What does it make for them? And in this case, when we started in July this year to coordinate in the end the Zero Separation campaign, 120 organizations signed up. But you all know signing up means not honestly really to support it and implement or help us to implement this strategy into the level of a national level, of a local level, or even to speak up, to convince other colleagues and partners to realize in the end a zero separation policy. But how is the situation really when we see it all over the world, or even in each of the different countries? We have really several hospitals all over the world. They allow not at all any contact to the parents. That means they provide potentially videos or photos of the baby, but they have no contact to their baby until the baby is discharged. And knowing this from my own, I was 4.5 months with Lucas in the hospital. That is really not only a challenge, that's a disaster. In several countries, for example, in Ireland, or also in Greece, we had the situation, what we know, that 5 up to 15 minutes per day or even only per week were allowed. Our colleague Mandy Daly from the Irish Parent Organization have even set up a campaign that 15 minutes are not enough. And so therefore, that is really not only a small group of hospitals who are providing this is really a huge group of hospitals who only provide 15 minutes more or less per day or per week. In several hospitals, and I know this is also the case in Canada, you are allowing only one parent per day to visit or see your baby. That means that mainly the fathers are not able to see their child. I can tell you from my own experience, my husband had a severe depression years after Lucas came home because he was often not able to see his son Lucas, and only was allowed on Father's Day, so 3.5 months later as Lucas was born, the first time in his life to kangaroo him. And that made a difference in his health. It made a difference in how he could cope with this situation. And therefore, I really ask you to think about that you welcome parents both. It's not only the mother who is a parent, it's also the father. And we have the difference of no change. And I'm very proud to say this, and I have not believed it really, that Germany is one of these countries who is welcoming parents for 24/7. All over Germany, there we not really have any excuses. Maybe in some areas where we not have both together, but each of the parents can come 24/7. We have not everywhere facilities where we have a bed, but the parents have no limitation to come. And I guess the reason why we have this here in Germany is that we've worked for more than 20 years for this 24/7 welcoming policy. And only Sweden, we know, and Germany have this kind of no change policy all over the world. What does it mean? Separation is harmful for the baby and the parents. And we know from the evidence what it means. That means that we not can really provide an exclusive breastfeeding for this baby. How can breastfeeding work when you separate the baby from the parents? We know that the mother's own milk is really key in the health outcome of a baby. And when you put so much pressure and stress on the shoulders of parents, how should the milk flow and how should it work in the end that the mother can provide really mother's own milk in the same way as it would be with the baby together? And when you see here the facts and figures that we would decrease the risk of necrotizing enterocolitis, sepsis, or infant mortality by 50%, then I would ask you why you are still working on a separation policy when we, especially in the rich countries, can provide hygiene measurements, can educate and train our parents, and can provide in the end access to our babies. We know that there's also a better mental outcome, not only for the babies, also for the parents. Another key aspect what I would like to share with you is the aspect of the kangaroo mother care or skin-to-skin care. What is not possible when you have a policy like 15 minutes, you can't kangaroo there. Even if you only allow one parent to come, how can the father start to become get a really bonding between both? And when you see also here the key facts and figures, it would reduce the mortality by 40%. Even infection, and we talk about corona as an infection, even infection and sepsis decreases on 65%, hypothermia 72%. And this shows also what the parents or the parents as main caregiver can be supportive for a neonatal unit. The nurses, we know at the moment that there is a lack of nurses and doctors in the hospitals. So that means having not enough nurses, having not enough doctors, you have not enough time potentially to wash your hands, to go patient by patient, and can in the end even increase the infection and the sepsis rate. Therefore, if the parents are well educated and well trained of how to take care of not bringing the virus into the NICU, and you provide hygiene measurements, you can welcome parents 24/7. And we know that the mental health aspects of kangaroo mother care or skin-to-skin care is key, and therefore it has a long-term consequences even after 10 years of life. When it comes to the separation between the bonding aspects, parents welcome in the end the parents, we know that the language outcome is better when parents and babies can be together. We know that the weight gain is better. We support, of course, the exclusive breastfeeding, as I said before, and we would decrease the stress and the anxiety of parents. And we have to take into account it is not only the baby as a patient, it is the whole family. And this baby belongs to the parents. It's not the ownership of the hospital. It is the ownership of the parents. And how can we ensure to really bring these people together and in the end to improve the care or improve the care and the outcome of our children. So when you see here these figures and also the facts, we ask always, or you have asked us always, on evidence-based medicine. And this is evidence-based medicine to provide kangaroo mother care, to provide a zero separation policy, and to provide breastfeeding. And that are the key aspects of why a zero separation policy needs to be implemented. If you not have it at the moment, you have to rethink about your strategy. What can you do? And we have, of course, a lot of collaboration partners in the meanwhile, healthcare professionals, the World Health Organization, nurses are joining us. But I also want to share with you the last quote, what we have got here from our French partners and friends, SOS Preemie, who have shown here in their quote that all the years of hard work, what they have done with the multiple stakeholders all over, the interdisciplinary teams, all the work we have done to have a zero separation policy, to have a welcoming strategy, to have a family integrated care policy seems to be damaged at the moment because of, no facts and figures why we are doing this, but we separate our babies from the parents. So please rethink your strategy, talk and convince in the end your colleagues or your administration to rethink why you are separating the baby from the families. And I would like to close my presentation with this really emotional pictures. One, you see a mom where she is showing a picture into the camera because she has not the opportunity to see her baby, not to touch her baby. And you just have to look into her eyes and the pain she feels and how sad she is. And you see the picture next where the couple with the masks are bathing their baby. Seems to be maybe the first time because you can see in the eyes how emotional it is for them. And there is not a reason why not be willing and allowing these parents to be parents in the time of the pandemic. And you just can imagine what both parents, the couple and this individual mom, will suffer lifelong or have the opportunity to cope with the situation, getting a baby born preterm in the time frame of the pandemic. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Silke. Thank you for your advocacy and for engaging all these organizations and all parents organizations from around the world for the Zero Separation campaign. We only have 5 minutes left, but I really want to ask you, what is the goal of this survey? We have engaged so many countries in this survey. When we spread in this survey, we have shared the link. So what is your goal with that, with the results and the data that we're going to collect?
Yes, what I can share with you is that when we only share emotions, we will not change systems. We will not change in the end or convince healthcare professionals. And even when a next pandemic, hopefully not so soon, but if there comes a next one, or even going back to the old system, that we have a chance to argue what happens late, what happens in the time frame, what really happens. Because when I give talks in the meanwhile, people say, yeah, we are not forbidding the parents to go there, or they say, yeah, it's only for protecting the baby. But if we can show that the majority of the hospitals all over the world have changed their policy, how deep really this change happened in these different countries. Also to compare, like Germany, why Germany, and we have also a high wave at the moment, not stopping in the end the welcoming policy, and why we are doing this, and why, for example, Canada, who is in the, I would say, more or less the same situation of how we handle normally health issues. You are separating even fathers at the moment, or you're not welcoming them 24/7 everywhere all over Canada. And why is this the case? And we cannot argue without data, and we need data to argue also for improvement after the pandemic, preventing the next pandemic, and even go hopefully back faster to the old situation after pandemic is over, and to show facts and figures. Without, we cannot convince in the end stakeholders on the different levels.
Absolutely. But I'm happy to share with you that many hospitals have changed the policy in Canada and are enabling parents, both parents, into the ICU. Some hospitals is still one parent at a time, not parents together. And we had situations and baby was palliative care and only one parent could be present in that moment. So we still have a lot of work to do. We are not giving up. And I think the result of the survey will be very, very important to share with healthcare professionals. And we know this pandemic is not going to be over in the next month. We still have long ways to go. And I'm hoping we have this data to share and prove that parents are essential in the care of their babies right now, still during this second wave that is hitting us very hardly on the northern hemisphere right now. Silke, just to wrap it up, in your opinion, how do you see family-centered care or family-integrated care moving forward after the pandemic?
Well, our hope is honestly that this publication, because we will really plan a medical publication, will help us to argue. We also have a close collaboration at the moment with WHO, so the World Health Organization, and UNICEF, and we work hand in hand together to spread the message to go back quickly to the old stage where we were before. And even for the ones who were before the pandemic already in a more or less separation situation, we hope with all this argumentation and with this facts of not harm at the end, and be supportive for this baby and the family, will help us really to move forward much quicker as we were even before. Nevertheless, we also, of course, hope that we can help all the families in this 1.5 year, I guess we will have finally this pandemic, help these families who now get their babies born preterm in this time frame to cope and support them with all the mental health problems they will have for sure.
Absolutely, Silke, and I'm so grateful to have organizations like yours leading the way to all of us to work together and change the situation worldwide. So thank you so much, and happy World Prematurity Day to you in Germany. And I will see you very soon, Silke. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a wonderful World Prematurity Day. Bye.
Bye for now. And thank you all of you for joining the conversation today. We will have a short break and I'll be back with Victoria DiGiovanni, who is a 25-year-old young woman who was born at 25 weeks. And in honor of Prematurity Awareness Month, in collaboration with CPBF, Pampers will donate 200,000 diapers to support Canadian families and NICUs during November and December. Until the end of December, every time you use the hashtag Pampers for Preemies, Pampers will donate one extra diaper to Canadian NICUs through the CPBF. So join us. And I also would like to thank AbbVie and Pampers for supporting the Preemie Power Week. And I want to thank our wonderful team here at CPBF who worked really hard to put this week together for us. And CPBF is a registered charity, and your donations this week will go to our COVID care program to provide therapy sessions for NICU families. Please donate on our website, canadianpreemies.org. Together we can create a brighter future for all NICU families. So stay tuned. We'll be back a few minutes with Victoria DiGiovanni, followed by Dr. Stephanie Liu, a pediatrician, who's going to talk about caring for your baby at home post-discharge from the NICU. I see you shortly. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Preemie Power Week, and welcome back if you were joining us earlier today. I'm Fabiana Bacchini, Executive Director of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation, CPBF, and your host for this event. The Preemie Power Week is the second of 2 international live series that CPBF is hosting 2020 in recognition of World Prematurity Day. These education sessions are in collaboration with the International Family Integrated Care Committee, the Canadian Association of Neonatal Nurses, EFCNI, and GLANS, the Global Alliance for the Newborn Care. For those not familiar with CPBF, we are a charitable organization, and our mission is to support and educate Canadian families of premature babies every step of the way. We believe that through consistent information, access to helpful resources, and peer support inside and outside the NICU, we can empower families, ensuring they are ready to care for their baby. Consistent information is especially important today when we are facing a global pandemic. With educational sessions like this, we intend to bring you the guidance of healthcare professionals and the knowledge gathered by researchers around the world. These are valuable tools to help our community raise awareness and advocate for the well-being of families and their babies. I would like to thank AbbVie for the unrestricted educational grant and Pampers for supporting the Preemie Power Week. I have with me now Victoria DiGiovanni. We pre-recorded her session as she's working today, and I'll have my introductions on her video. There you go. Renata, if you are there, can you play, please? And here with me today, I have Victoria DiGiovanni talking about growing up a preemie. She will share some insight into what her experience entailed for her and her family, as well as the hurdles she faced during childhood and adolescence. She will approach this sensitive topic, which can often feel scary, uncertain, and vulnerable, to shed some light as to what it means to beat the odds. And in her own words, each small victory counts because the little things become the big things. And before you know it, 25 weeks turn into 25 years. Victoria DiGiovanni was born at 25 weeks gestation, weighing 790 grams, arriving to this world with anxiety-provoking circumstances for her and her family. With a strong support system of family members, a team of allied health professionals, and ICU support staff, she was able to thrive. Victoria has since graduated with a degree in early childhood studies and a Master of Science in Occupational Therapy, and has been working as a pediatric occupational therapist for over a year. She hopes to one day support preterm infants and ICU families in their journey. Victoria, thank you so much for joining us here today. I really feel emotional just reading your bio and reading a little bit of your story. So thank you for joining us here today and for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having me, Fabi. It's an honor to be here speaking on World Prematurity Day. I'm really excited to share my story.
Wonderful. So I will let you share the screen, and then we can have a little chat afterwards.
Sure, sounds great. So I just want this to be a combination of my experiences growing up preemie, but I also want to highlight my parents' experiences and efforts. I think they're a huge reason as to why I am where I am today. So with that, we can get started. Here is a photo of my parents. On the right is my mom, Gina, and on the left is my dad, Vince. So my mom is an educational assistant and she supports children with disabilities. And my dad was a mechanic for Air Canada. And they decided to raise a family in Brampton, Ontario. I am the baby of the family. I have 2 older brothers. And back in 1995, when my parents were expecting me, Jim was 11 and Joe was 2. And so I spoke with my parents about what was going on inside their minds at the time of my birth, knowing that they were anticipating that I'd be born in October. But on the evening of July 3rd, my mom felt a lot of pressure in her lower abdomen. And she chalked it up to just having a busy weekend. She didn't even think about the possibility of going into labor because she was only 25 weeks. So she decided to get some rest to see if that would help. And in the middle of the night, she noticed she was spotting. So she called the labor and delivery unit in Brampton, and they recommended that she go in for a checkup. And when she arrived, they let her know that she was starting to dilate, and they immediately called Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto to see if they were able to accept her, if they had room for us. And thankfully they did. So when my mom arrived at the hospital, the medical team tried their best to try and halt the labor process. But I ended up being born on July 4th, 1995. I was really eager to come into this world. And like Fabi mentioned, I was 790 grams or 1 pound and 12 ounces. And I was immediately taken to the NICU to be monitored. My parents didn't know what my health status was. They just knew that the NICU team were working really hard to try and keep me alive. And the way the NICU was set up at the time, my mom describes it as a baby farm. It was almost like there were rows and rows of isolates. And she remembers seeing other preemie babies. So you would see the tender moments with the parents, but you would also see the struggles. So you would see the chaos and you would feel the urgency for the other families. And it was difficult because you didn't know what route your baby would take. So it was uncertain if that would be me at any point. So that was difficult. But day by day, the nurses and doctors encouraged my parents not to give up hope. And they shared stories about how other babies had made the transition from the NICU to home. But at the same time, they didn't hide the possibility of any negative outcomes. So my parents had to be prepared for anything. The doctors told them that they couldn't be sure of any damage that to my brain that might have happened or what the effects of that damage could be. So my parents constantly had to prepare themselves for the challenges that I might face due to my early birth. And I just want to highlight the support that my family and I received at Mount Sinai, which was unparalleled. And the NICU team really became like family. They gave my parents the strength that they needed to be able to face each day and to face each new struggle. But they also gave them the confidence to be able to feel like they were in control of the situation as much as possible. So I was kept at Mount Sinai in the NICU for 7 weeks. And the rest of the time I was kept in Brampton. And once I was in Brampton, my parents really felt like they could be more hands-on and they felt more confident to be able to advocate for my care. So I was sent home on October 9th, which happened to be Thanksgiving Day or Thanksgiving weekend. And my family was really thankful for that. And I was followed up with sick kids until I was 4 years old. And throughout those 4 years, I was assessed by the different therapies. So occupational therapy, physiotherapy, speech, and I had a lot of tests done for my vision, my lungs, my ears, and there were some pretty tense moments throughout my time in the hospital, like when I needed a transfusion, when I was taken off the vent, and once again when there was a spot on my brain, ultrasound. But in retrospect, we were very, very fortunate. And that's not to say that life after the NICU was smooth sailing. Winters were particularly difficult. There were countless trips to the emergency room in my early years. I had pneumonia numerous times. I dealt with asthma, chronic constipation, ear infections, tubes in my ears 3 times. And all of these occurrences might seem like a common occurrence for parents of non-preemie babies, but for parents of preemies, these challenges seem to be magnified because it brought back a lot of the memories of the NICU for my parents. So that was always really hard for them. But on a more positive note, when I turned 4, this was the turning point for my parents. They seemed to feel like I was getting stronger and I was making gains. And it was also around this 4-year mark where my parents started to notice a few things that were getting in the way of my day-to-day life, not in a major way, but the first was I experienced tactile hyperresponsivity. And the second was that I would worry about things a lot. So the sensory processing side of things, I was really sensitive to tactile input. So I would feel really distressed, or I'd be really focused on the way that things felt on my body. So I would flip my socks inside out so I didn't feel the seam. I wore elastic waist pants. I didn't like the feeling of the button on my skin. And I really didn't tolerate the feeling of dirt, sand, or flour under my fingers and toes. So I found with age, though, I've definitely increased my threshold and my tolerance for sensory input. But the one thing that sort of stuck throughout my childhood and adolescence was the worrying. So I went through my elementary years really striving to be my very best in all aspects of my learning. And I was very focused on all of the what ifs. And these are the expectations I had set for myself, which also translated to my high school years and my post-secondary programming. But with a great support system, I was able to find adaptive coping strategies and manage those moments that felt uncertain or scary. And I want to highlight that support system is huge. So aside from the sensory differences and the worrying, I can definitely say that growing up, I didn't feel very different from my peers. I was a happy kid, a happy teenager, and I was able to engage well with my academics. I played sports, I did other extracurriculars, drama, singing, and I had a great group of friends. So I really do feel so fortunate to be able to say that my life has felt pretty standard given the circumstances of my birth. I do feel very, very fortunate. Fast forwarding a little bit, like Fabi mentioned, in the spring of 2017, I graduated from my early childhood studies programming. So I got my degree and diploma, and I acquired over 700 hours working alongside children and adolescents and their families. And in November of last year, I graduated from my Master's of Occupational Therapy, and I've since been supporting children and families in a pediatric role to help them thrive in their day-to-day lives. So it's pretty neat in that sense. I feel like occupational therapy has definitely been central to my life before I even really knew what it was or understood what it was. I think my pursuit in the field has definitely been attributed to all of the allied health professionals who supported me in my early years with all of those follow-up sessions. So it does feel quite full circle in that sense, which is pretty neat. And to wrap up my journey to where I am today, I wanted to summarize by saying, for those of you listening who may have been impacted by preterm birth, it may seem like there are many contextual factors against you or your loved ones, and the situation at hand might feel very chaotic and uncertain, and the fear of the unknown can be a debilitating feeling that may make you feel like you want to give up. But the idea is that you fight and you keep fighting, because there's a reason why you face all of the obstacles that you face in your life and in the life of your preemie. And you may be watching as a mother, a father, a sibling, or a friend, and I want you to know that you're not alone. You are part of a network of supports, and there are so many people who are here to help you stay grounded and to take each day as it comes and to see what each day brings. And day by day, moment by moment, you will make it through, and you'll paint your preemiehood story, your successes, the hardships. And my intention for sharing my story today is that I'm able to even provide a little bit of hope that as each day progresses, each small victory that you have counts. And like in my introduction, the little things become the big things. And before you know it, 25 weeks turns into 25 years.
Wow, Victoria, thank you so much for that. What a beautiful presentation. And I really feel emotional listening to you. I know your mom from Mount Sinai, And I think your mom is spectacular. No wonder you're this amazing woman that you are now. So I really want to bring you here today because obviously I heard you speaking before. I admire immensely your courage, your strength. I share your story with our community, with our parents. And I feel that you bring us so much hope because when we are in the ICU, when your kids are very small, we don't know what the future brings, right? We always, we don't know. We live in this unknown. We don't know what's happening, what can happen. We are so bombarded all the time with the bad prognosis. And then we see you. And we see you shining, and you had all these challenges throughout your life, your early years of your life. And here you are now, giving hope to families that the future can be bright. And I feel that even though my child has incredible medical complexity, has a disability, I feel that he's thriving because he's here with me. So I think no matter what happens after the ICU and we have our children, and is a reason to celebrate because this is not an easy journey. And you always acknowledge the parents who did not take the babies home because it also, we know it happens with prematurity, and we want to acknowledge those parents' strength as well and the support that is available for those parents to face that piece of their journey. But I want to ask you, how do you feel when you see your pictures as a preemie baby in that tiny incubator, so little, so fragile?
Oh gosh, it's surreal. It really is. I feel like the more I know about preterm birth and the more I learn about sort of the rehab side of things, being an OT, I feel so privileged and I feel very fortunate to be where I am today. I can't even imagine the fear that parents feel seeing a little person wrapped up in tubes and lines, and it's scary, but I feel very, very lucky to be where I am. Yeah, and I feel very blessed and appreciative of all the support that I received.
Absolutely. Victoria, today's World Prematurity Day is a day for us to raise awareness on prematurity, to make society understand the struggles of those families. We have 1 in 12 babies in Canada. What this day means to you?
Oh my gosh, this day is truly really special. I feel like I understand that my story might not be what every family experiences. And I just want to sort of reiterate that there is a whole network of supports that are celebrating today, the victories, but also acknowledging that it can be very difficult for families. And we really want to uplift all of the families in their journey on World Prematurity Day, but also throughout the year. We know that today we're bringing awareness and we're celebrating the victories, but we're also acknowledging that, it's a journey. It really is. And celebrating those small victories is important. So this day is really special to me. I look forward to seeing all of the posts and the CN Tower being lit up purple. That's always fun.
Absolutely.
So it's really special.
Actually, talk about the illumination. We have 28 monuments tonight in Canada leading up in purple for World Prematurity Day. And the full list is on our website, canadianpreemies.org, and you can check. There is one in your city. And take pictures and hashtag Preemie Power Canada or World Prematurity Day, because then you can see the whole social media in purple to honor these days and remember the babies who were born so early and the ones who left us too soon. So Victoria, I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. I always appreciate you and you sharing your story. And I think you are doing an amazing work in the community, supporting families who were in your shoes before. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Fabi. It really is a pleasure.
Okay, so I will see you very soon, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And thank you all of you for joining the conversation today. I had to pre-record Victoria's session earlier as she's working right now, supporting our community. I see many comments how Victoria does give us hope as parents, and absolutely agree with all of you in our audience. And we'll have a short break now, and we'll be back in a few minutes with Dr. Stephanie Liu, talk about how to care for your premature baby at home after discharge. And in honor of Prematurity Awareness Month, in collaboration with CPBF, Pampers will donate 200,000 diapers to support Canadian families and NICUs during November and December. Until the end of December, every time you use the hashtag Pampers for Preemies, Pampers will donate one extra diaper to Canadian ICUs through the CPBF. So join us. And I would like to thank AbbVie and Pampers for supporting the Preemie Power Week and our great team here at CPBF. CPBF is a registered charity, and your donations this week will go to our COVID care program to provide therapy sessions for NICU families. Please donate on our website, canadianpreemies.org. Together, we can create a brighter future for all NICU families. Next session will start in just a few minutes with Dr. Stephanie Liu. And also I will share with you that 3 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be on Pampers Instagram account talking to Jessie Cruikshank about her experience with her premature twins. So I'll see you back very shortly. Thank you. welcome back and welcome to the Preemie Power Week. If this is the first session of your day, I am Fabiana Bacchini, Executive Director of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation, CPBF, and your host for this event. The Preemie Power Week is the second of two international live series that CPBF is hosting 2020 in recognition of World Prematurity Day. These educational sessions are in collaboration with the International Family Integrated Care Committee, the Canadian Association of Neonatal Nurses, EFCNI, and GLANS, the Global Alliance for the Newborn Care. For those not familiar with CPBF, we are a charitable organization, and our mission is to support and educate Canadian families of premature babies every step of the way. We believe that through consistent information, access to helpful resources, and peer support inside and outside an ICU, we can empower families, ensuring they are ready to care for their baby. Consistent information is especially important today when we are facing a global pandemic. With educational sessions like this, we intend to bring you the guidance of healthcare professionals and the knowledge gathered by researchers around the world. These are valuable tools to help our community raise awareness and advocate for the well-being of families and their babies. I would like to thank AbbVie for the unrestricted educational grant and Pampers for supporting the Preemie Power Week. And right now, we're going to talk about caring for your preemie baby at home. Dr. Liu will provide tips on caring for your preemie baby at home. She'll discuss topics from how to care for your preemie skin to baby sleep tips. Dr. Stephanie Liu is a family physician and assistant clinical professor at the University of Alberta. She graduated from Columbia University with a Master's of Science and completed her Doctor of Medicine at the University of Alberta. Dr. Liu is the creator of parenting blog Life of Dr. Mom, where she discusses her experiences as a first-time mom and provides evidence-based child and maternal health information. Her goal is to provide parents with a credible medical resource so they can make informed decisions when it comes to the health of their families. Dr. Liu, thank you so much for joining us here today from Edmonton, Alberta. What an honor to have you in our life.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy and honored to be here today.
And for all of those watching us here, please send your comments and questions on the box below, and we'll address them at the end of Dr. Liu's presentation. Dr. Liu, feel free to share your screen and walk us through your presentation.
Perfect. And so, sorry, Fabiana, I'm still getting used to the text.
No
is this good right now, Fabiana?
It's perfect now.
Okay, great. So once again, I'm so honored to be here today to talk about caring for your preterm baby at home. We're going to talk skincare, we're going to talk sleep, and we're going to talk skincare. So this is an overview of the talk that I'll be giving. First, I'm going to talk about some of the challenges I experience as being a new parent. I'm going to talk about preterm skin health. What are some of the differences between full-term versus preterm skin? I'm going to then talk about some of the common skincare concerns. Kangaroo care, what is it? Why do we do it? Then I'll be talking about sleep. Why is sleep important? And some of my newborn and preterm sleep tips. Then I'll be discussing sleep safety. And finally, we'll end off on self-care, why I think it's important. So these are two pictures of my kids. Maddie, she's now 4 years old. And this was the day that we were taking her home from the hospital. And you can see here, she's in a jacket that is incorrectly put on because me and my husband were so nervous that day taking her home. She felt so fragile and so little, and we were nervous and we couldn't even put her into her jacket properly. The next picture is a picture of my son, George. He's actually a year old already. And you can see there, we're a little more comfortable with parenting. He's in a appropriately sized outfit, and we remembered to bring a tube to keep his head warm on our drive home from the hospital. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I think being a new parent is hard. There were a lot of unexpected challenges that came up. I love being a parent. I feel so lucky to be a parent, but it's also a lot harder than I anticipated. The first picture I have of me there is a picture of me really, really tired. And that's because being a parent to a newborn is exhausting. It was more tiring than anything in my medical training. I was up overnight many nights during my residency training, but residency training compared to new parenthood with a newborn, I would say new parenthood with a newborn is way more exhausting. The next picture is a picture of my daughter Maddie and me. And I remember before having my daughter, one of the things I looked forward to the most was breastfeeding. I was so excited to experience that bonding that people talk about, that connection that you feel when you're breastfeeding, and of course all of the other health benefits associated with breastfeeding. And then I tried to breastfeed Maddie, and it was really freaking hard. It was not intuitive, and it was really challenging. And it made me feel really bad about myself when I wasn't able to breastfeed. My experience with breastfeeding has actually changed me, I think, as a physician, because now whenever a patient comes in talking about their challenges with breastfeeding, the most important thing to me is to make sure that they feel supported and that they know that regardless of whether or not they're able to breastfeed, that they are doing an amazing job. The next picture is a picture of me and my husband. This was way pre-kids, when we were both still residents, and we were hiking in Cinque Terre then in Italy. And we were both so happy when our kids came into our life, and we felt so blessed. But at the same time, our relationship dynamic changed. Before our kids, it was just me and him. We were the only two people that we needed to worry about on a daily basis. And then we had these amazing little kitties that joined our lives. But with the addition of new people, it definitely adds more complexity and changes to relationships. The last picture is a picture of my son, George, when he was, I would say, I think about a week old. And, even looking at this picture, I just feel overwhelming love. I felt overwhelming love with both of my kids. But at the same time, I also felt overwhelming worry, more worries than I've experienced ever before having kids. I worry about, am I cutting their nails properly? What's with the boogers in their nose? Is their poo normal? And I'm a healthcare professional, and I question myself daily too. As an additional comment, it was hard for me, and parenting is hard in general. And I didn't even have a preterm infant with a prolonged stay, and I didn't have a baby during a pandemic. So for all of you listening, I think you guys are all amazing. So newborn skin. Skin, as some of you guys may know, is actually the largest organ in our body. There's many functions to the skin. It's important for protecting us from UV light. It helps protect us from microbes. So it acts as a barrier to bacteria in the environment. It helps us regulate our temperature. It allows us to feel sensations. Through our skin, we can feel heat, cold, touch. Newborn skin is not as developed as adult skin. It's actually more susceptible to injury, to minor abrasions, to infection, and to heat loss. It's important to note that skin is not mature at birth, and it continues to mature until the first year of life. Preterm skin is even less developed than term newborn skin. And they're at a higher risk of infection. Preterm infant skin is at a higher risk of infection, skin breakdown, and temperature regulation problems. It's important to note that, fortunately, by 2 to 3 weeks after birth, preterm newborn skin is comparable to full-term newborn skin. So this is a picture of Maddie. She had a short stay at the NICU for some respiratory problems. And I'm sharing this picture because with this picture, I'm able to highlight some of the potential areas for skin damage. So she has some stickies on her chest and on her tummy, and those are to monitor heart rate and breathing. It's important to note that when these are taken off, it can cause skin damage. The other thing that you might notice on Maddie's right leg is a blood pressure cuff. It's important to monitor blood pressure, but this is also a potential site of injury to the skin. And then there's also a random picture of a bathtub there. And the reason the bathtub is there is that bathing can actually cause irritation to the skin too. So some general skin protection tips I have for the preterm babe is being aware that damage to the skin can occur from pressure injuries such as blood pressure cuffs. So making sure that we're monitoring the skin regularly and changing position as frequently as you can, and also changing positions of things like blood pressure cuffs, switching up the legs. Stripping from medical adhesive. So one thing that's recommended is using the smallest amount of tape possible. Another tip is petroleum jelly, also known as Vaseline. It acts as a great skin barrier. So just lather that on, and that will also help act as a barrier for those adhesive devices. The other thing to note is there's now more products on there for more products available for preterm infants. So, for example, there are some diapers on the market that are specifically made for preterm infants, and they have these gentle peel adhesives to make sure that the skin doesn't get damaged. As I mentioned earlier, bathing can be irritating for the skin. So make sure first to check in with your healthcare provider to make sure that it's safe to bathe your preterm babe, because early preterms may have not fully developed their temperature regulation. And we only want to bathe preterm babes once their thermal regulation is more developed. Another thing I learned was you don't need to give babies baths every day. It can actually dry out the skin. Avoid scented products. Scented products can cause irritation to the skin. And if you do decide to use a little bit of shampoo or soap, use it sparingly and make sure you do it at the very end so that the baby isn't soaking in the soapy water. Okay, diaper rashes, super common. They affect up to 24 to 40% of NICU neonates. Both of my kids actually had diaper rashes during the first month of life. So I use the acronym ABCD to help me remember some steps for managing diaper rash. So A is air. One thing that I recommend is having some, if possible, having some diaper free time, but making sure you're prepared. So what I would do would be I'd put a towel down and make sure that I had a towel handy. And when I take off the diaper, make sure that the towel's there and the diaper's there. My son in particular loved peeing the first month of his life whenever he was exposed to air. He would pee and he peed in his own face, and he's actually peed in my face too. So what I want to make sure, what I did after that experience was I made sure that we had the towel there and that I had a diaper right away to put on if he were to start peeing. So air is great to let that skin in the diaper region kind of breathe. The next thing is barriers. So barriers are great ways to protect the skin. So one product I mentioned already was petroleum jelly, also known as Vaseline. I would liberally just put it on the baby's diaper area. And this helps protect when poo and pee is about to encounter the skin, because it acts as a little barrier from the skin to the poo and the pee. Or you could use zinc oxide. And zinc oxide is that white diaper cream. The other thing is that's important to note is cleansing the area. So poo in particular is really bad if it's left on the skin for a long time, because it can cause a lot of irritation to the skin. So what I would do would be I'd either wipe off the area with some fragrance-free wipes, or even just kind of run the bum under some lukewarm water just to clean off all the poop. The next thing is diapers. I recommend super absorbable diapers that are unscented, just to help minimize the moisture in the bum area. And this is actually a picture of my daughter helping me change George's diaper when he was first born. So here's some general skincare tips that I have. Preterm and term newborn skin is still developing, which makes them more susceptible to irritation and infection compared to adults. Moisturize, moisturize, moisturize. It's really important to lock in moisture for newborn skin in general, and especially for preterm babes. So petroleum jelly, I would liberally just kind of put that all over the bod, or you could use an unscented hypoallergenic cream and liberally apply that to the baby. Bathing. As I mentioned, I recommend checking in first with your healthcare provider to make sure that it's safe to start bathing your babe. And the next thing, which I kind of mentioned, was note that you don't need to bathe daily. Another great tip that I learned is don't rub the skin afterwards to dry it. Gently tap dry the skin and make sure that you leave a little bit of moisture on the skin so that the skin still feels damp. And while the skin still feels damp, take Vaseline or a hypoallergenic cream and layer it on there. And it really helps lock in the moisture. Another thing to note is some people, adults and children and newborns, can get reactions to certain types of laundry detergents. So I recommend using a gentle laundry detergent if you've had a reaction, or you could even just start your newborn with clothes that have been washed in a gentle laundry detergent. Kangaroo care. So what is it? So this picture, I think, explains kangaroo care pretty well. It's a picture of me and my son, George. And what we're doing is we're skin to skin. So he's wearing just a diaper, and he's on my bare chest. And essentially that's what kangaroo care is. It's that skin to skin contact between the caregiver and the babe. So there have been multiple studies that show that skin to skin care is really beneficial for preterm babies. It helps with temperature regulation. It also can help improve sleep, particularly in organization and in duration. It can help prolong sleep too. It's also important that studies have shown that it can help improve cognitive function. So it helps with brain development. It has also been shown that when moms do more skin to skin time, it can help breast milk production too. And one of the most remarkable things that I saw when I was doing my NICU rotation was that, and this was when I was back in residency, but I still remember this, is that I've seen a baby with a really high respiratory rate, so they're breathing really quickly. And right away when they're put on their parent's chest, you could see the baby trying to breathe at a rate similar to their parents. And studies have shown that skin to skin time helps with breathing stability. There are procedures that are done in the NICU that are painful, and skin to skin contact has been shown to actually help with improved pain responses. Another study actually showed that skin to skin can enhance attachment behaviors. And I felt this firsthand. When I had my kids skin to skin with me when they were newborns, I felt such closeness. And really studies have confirmed that it really does improve attachment with parents and with caregivers and the babe. So preterm sleep patterns. So sleep is essential, as many of us know, to physical and mental development, and particularly for babies. Term newborns sleep a lot. They sleep 70% of each 24-hour period. And preterm babes sleep even more. They sleep about 90% of the time. As preterm newborns develop, their sleep patterns will generally resemble the patterns of term babies. However, some preterm infants may actually have more variable sleep that's not as consistent. And this typically can last in the first year of life compared to term infants. Here are some of my sleep tips. Although preterm and term infants don't have a developed circadian rhythm yet, I think it's important to encourage good sleep habits early on. So circadian rhythm is our body's ability to know what's daytime and what's nighttime. For preterm babes and newborns in general, this doesn't develop until they're at least 4 to 6 months of age. However, I still think it's good to have encourage good sleep habits early on. So the first thing I recommend are semi-structured naps during the day. So what that means is kind of checking in on your watch. I don't have my watch on right now, but timing around every 90 minutes and saying, you know what, around every 90 minutes, I'm going to try to put the babe down for a nap. This is important, I think, timing, especially for preterm infants, as sometimes they're not able to show clear distress signals that they're tired. So they may not be rubbing their eyes or yawning. So that's when I think timing is helpful to prevent the babe from getting overstimulated or overtired. I also think it's beneficial to keep nighttime feeds and diaper changes in a minimal stimulation darkened room. And this is helpful because I think that over time, the baby will start to recognize, you know what, this is nighttime, this is a time for sleep, and this is a low stimulation time right now. Another thing that I think is helpful is having an environment that's conducive to sleep. So one, setting the temperature of the room. It's recommended that babies sleep somewhere between 18.3 degrees Celsius to 21.1 degrees Celsius. So setting the temperature of the room somewhere in between there. We like a hotter room to sleep in, so we make it a little bit closer to that 21. Another thing that I recommend is a bassinet in the room with you, and making sure that that mattress is firm and that's flat and that there's no pillows or blankies in there. And this kind of leads into my next tip, safe sleep tips. So you see a baby there. and his crib looks really, really boring. He does not have any stuffies. He or she does not have any stuffies. They don't have any of those crib bumper rails. They don't have any pillows or big blankies. And that's because the safest way to sleep is essentially in a really boring environment. So what we recommend is a firm, flat mattress, no pillows, no comforters, no blankies, and that the baby sleep on their back. It's also recommended to avoid smoking. And the reason that we recommend all of these tips is there's something called SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. And they found that back to sleep, firm, flat mattress, nothing in the crib is actually one of the safest ways for the baby to sleep. And this reduces the risk of SIDS. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about is self-care. I mentioned this at the start of my talk. I think being a new parent is hard, and I think that there's a lot of unexpected challenges. And I think that as a parent, we need to know that we're doing a great job, and to be kind to ourselves and to give ourselves a pat on the back and say, you know what, I'm doing good. I'm doing great. The next thing is, and it's more challenging during COVID for sure, is to not be afraid to ask for help. I was fortunate when I had both of my kids. I had my parents and my in-laws being able to stop by frequently to help look after the kids so I could, shower or cook a meal. And unfortunately with COVID, we aren't able to have visitors to homes anymore. But there are other things that people can do for you if they want to help. Is, if someone says, hey, can I drop off a nice meal for you? Can I drop off dinner? I would say go for it. I really struggled being able to accept help with my first babe. And with my second, George, I had no issues. If someone said, drop off a meal, can I drop off a meal? I would say, sure, absolutely. I'd love it. The next thing is take breaks. It's busy being a parent. There's so much to do between diaper changes, breastfeeding, feeding with a bottle. And if possible, and you live with someone or you have a partner, be able to take breaks for each other. So, say, oh, would you mind watching the baby while I quickly take an uninterrupted shower or drink a coffee for 15 minutes quietly by myself? Yes, I highly encourage breaks. The next thing that is safe to do during COVID is to go for walks outside. We love going for family walks, and we still do now, especially during COVID. Even just going outside for 15 minutes when I had both the kids when they were newborns was so recharging for me. Finally, if you are struggling and you are worried about your mental health, please see your healthcare provider. We are here for you and we care. Finally, if you want to get a hold of me of any additional questions, you can reach out on my email, lifeofdrmom@gmail.com, or social media. I have an Instagram account at lifeofdrmom, or on Facebook. If you want more tips, you can check out lifeofdrmom.com. That's my website. It's been an absolute honor to talk to you guys, and I will open it up to questions. I'm just gonna...
Dr. Liu, thank you so much for sharing your story so authentically with us and for sharing your medical knowledge. If you don't follow Dr. Liu's social media, please follow her now on her Instagram account or Facebook or website. She has great tips for all parents, but for us parents of premature babies, there's some tips that are so important for us because you don't think that some things that happen to babies at home are part of growing up as a baby. We always think that could be a medical condition. So very important information there for all of us. So Dr. Liu, going home with your preemie baby, it's a dream that all parents have while in the ICU. You dream about that day. We count down to that day. But it can also be very intimidating because we no longer have the ICU staff around us to provide support and to take care of the baby. And sometimes, most of the times, you bring the baby home without the monitors and the alarms. It is not an easy transition. So share with us your transition, because you mentioned you spent a few days in the ICU with Mari. So how was that experience for you, and how did you prepare for that?
Yeah, so everything that you said, we were so excited on the day, we went to it, we were so excited, so we cannot, oh, is that okay? There's a bit of background noise. Is that okay, Fabiana?
Okay.
So oops, sorry, think it's my computer issue. We were so excited when we were bringing Morgan home. Like the day leading up, we were just thrilled about it. And then
we can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, good. It sounds kind of rattly on my side, but it's funny because my husband and I, when we were actually taking her home, we were so nervous and because we couldn't imagine doing it without our amazing nurses and the team at the NICU. So essentially what we did leading up to it was a few hours before discharge, I stayed with Maddie and my husband went to set up the room and make sure everything was ready. So we made sure that we had diapers ready, that we had a few changes of clothes, that our laundry was done prior to her coming home. And that we had the bassinet ready to go in the room and that we had bottles, everything ready. But I don't know if there's anything that can 100% prepare you because it is different when we transition back. We were really questioning ourselves the first few weeks and did a lot of reassurance ourselves. But yeah, I would say get all the physical stuff set up. And then that's probably the best tip that I have.
Absolutely. So now parents preparing to go home from the ICU during the pandemic, do you have any recommendation? How can parents prepare going home during this time that is incredibly challenging for families? There is more isolation and not everything is open in the community. A lot of appointments are done online. How can we possibly prepare the parents and give some recommendations on that?
Yeah, so this is an unprecedented time. Like one of the things that one family asked me, they just had their first child. It was actually the first grandchild of the entire family. And they said, it's very important that, we're able to keep in touch with our family members because it's such an exciting time. And I would say the one thing that has really helped families, and I encourage them to do this regularly, is FaceTime. Like we're very lucky that we have video chatting available. It's not the same, but it's definitely something that I think allows people to still feel connected. So I recommend lots of video chats with families to stay connected. And I would say also, I recommend, as I mentioned in the talk, going outside for walks and things like that, just to stay active too.
Absolutely. Dr. Liu, your biggest challenge as a new parent? Share with us.
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned some of them already, but I think the biggest challenge for me was breastfeeding. I had such high expectations of being able to really connect with my daughter and be able to breastfeed her right away. And when I struggled, it made me feel really, really bad about myself. And I think that, as I mentioned, that's made me really want to make sure that I can support mothers as much as I can, that if they are struggling to breastfeed, to connect them with people such as lactation consultants to help them breastfeed. But if they really cannot and they have issues with milk supply, to know that they're still doing an amazing job and that does not reflect them as a parent if they're not able to breastfeed.
Absolutely. And how important it is for families to continue to their follow-up appointments and reach out for help of the healthcare professionals, because in the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of families were actually afraid of leaving the house to go to a hospital or a doctor's office because they were afraid of contracting the virus at those facilities. So we still encourage parents to go. Places are safe and protocols in place. They have to continue going for their vaccinations, for RSV shots during this time.
I completely agree. At the start of the pandemic, people were not seeking medical attention. I even had a patient, and this is not a child, but an adult that had severe abdominal pain. And she didn't want to come in to see me for fear of contracting COVID. And she actually had a ruptured appendix, which is something that's life-threatening. Unfortunately, she did come to see me and sent her quickly to get to emergency, and she was operated on within the next 3 hours. And similarly, if you have concerns, and you're afraid to go see your physician right away or your healthcare provider, just call into the office. A lot of clinics are offering a phone consultation too. And at that point, they can direct you whether or not you would need to come in. But please, please, please reach out to your care provider if you have concerns.
Absolutely, especially with a premature baby.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the book that we just launched. I was very happy to hear there is a book out there to teach kids about COVID-19 and why do we need to keep social distancing and wear masks. Talk about how did you come up with the idea of George Shark and COVID-19, and what is the book all about?
Yes, I wrote a book for my son. His name is George, but his nickname is Georgie. And actually, do you have the book there?
I don't have it on my desk right now.
Later, but there's a picture of the Georgie shark, and he's kind of got my son's crazy hair, and it's kind of spiky. And when I think of my son, I think of him being a shark. And I was explaining to my daughter, what COVID is, and I was talking about my son, using him as an example. And essentially what that book explains is why it's so important to hand wash, or I call it fin washing in the book, why it's important to maintain social distance, and why masking can help prevent the spread. But at the end of the book, I talk about, and I truly believe this, that if we work together with time, we will get through this. So it's a book of, talking about the safety, but also a book that I hope provides hope, that things will get better if we all work together.
Absolutely. Dr. Liu, thank you so much for joining us here today. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I will keep following on social media to learn much more about how to care for preemie babies at home. So thank you so much for today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you all of you for joining the conversation today. It is World Prematurity Day, and tonight 28 monuments in Canada will be lit up in purple to honor the preemie babies and their families, and also remember the babies who left us too soon. And in honor of Prematurity Awareness Month, in collaboration with CPBF, Pampers will donate 200,000 diapers to support Canadian families and NICUs during November and December. Until the end of December, every time you hashtag Pampers for Preemies, Pampers will donate one extra diaper to Canadian ICUs through the CPBF. So join us. I also would like to thank AbbVie and Pampers for supporting the Preemie Power Week. I also want to thank CPBF team who worked really hard to make this week possible. CPBF is a registered charity, and your donations this week will go to our COVID care program to provide therapy sessions for NICU families. Please donate on our website, canadianpreemies.org. Together, we can create a brighter future for all NICU families. This is the last session of our day, but I will be on Pampers Instagram Live at 3 p.m. with Jessie Cruikshank, sharing her story of prematurity with her twin boys. And tomorrow, I will be back for day 3 of Preemie Power Week with Dr. Megan Azad, talking about how breastfeeding and gut bacteria shape lifelong health. And I also have Mary Lee Brockway examining trends in global preterm birth rates during the pandemic, the IPOP study. And Dr. Nancy Philly is going to talk to us about NICU fathers and COVID-19 international study. So join us tomorrow, and happy World Prematurity Day, everyone. I see you tomorrow.